Tonight on News 5 Live, Prime Minister Briceño's first press conference since resuming office in November 2020. He discusses his speech at the Summit of the Americas and his extended travel as chair of CARICOM. Government's arraignment with Courtney Koyi. City Hall says sayonara Micah and welcomes back Alan Pollard as deputy mayor. And 15 years later, Florencio Marin Sr. is back in public life. These stories and more coming up on News 5 Live.
I'm always on the go, and the country is my home. So when I want to get away from it all, I immerse myself with my favorite movies, all from the new Smart Stream app. It's easy to use this service. Purchase your movies from the app and use your mobile data, Smart Stream data packages, or smart broadband to stream and enjoy. Be like me and stream on the go with Smart Stream.
Welcome to Design Depot, all in one place. Shop brands you know and trust, like Kohler. Welcome, GE Appliances.
Welcome.
Oran Windows.
Welcome.
Tiles from around the world.
Welcome.
Sherwin-Williams Paint and Coatings. Visit us today at Mile 3 on the Philip Golson Highway or call us at 223-3768. Design Depot, all in one place.
Digi, the premier name in voice and data, is also the country's leading provider of innovative services and solutions for small business and enterprise. At DigiBusiness, we offer solutions, tools, and applications to support your business needs. Reduce costs, improve efficiency, and excel in a changing world where no idea is too big and no task is too small. From technology advising to design implementation and management, our team of qualified solution sales and specialists can develop a reliable and robust infrastructure, allowing you to spend more time on what matters most, your business. Visit us online to explore how DigiBusiness innovative products and solutions can help your business reduce costs and improve efficiency.
It's time to bring the energy and entertainment back to Tuesday nights. It's time for the return of KTV The Remix. We're looking for new talent for this year's competition. Auditions will be held at Channel 5 Studios in Belize City on June 25th and 26th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You must be 16 years or older. Bring your best voice and come TV ready.
Biodegradable plastics. When talking about plastic, don't you always hear people say that this plastic or that plastic is biodegradable, eco-friendly, environmentally friendly, green, or even ecological? Well, the truth is that these words and many others like them are often used to give the impression that the product is better for the environment. When shopping, the terms to look for are bio-based, compostable, or environmentally degradable plastics because they are tested against specific standards to ensure that they are broken down with minimal impacts to the environment. But what does biodegradable really mean? To put it simply, it is the breakdown of something into water, carbon dioxide, and biomass by the action of living organisms, usually bacteria or fungus. However, people call some plastics biodegradable, but they never fully break down because they still contain plastics made from petroleum or inorganic material. The plastics just break down into tinier pieces called microplastics, which then enter the food cycle through the ingestion by animals that people eat. Don't be fooled, check your labels. Click on the link below to see what you can do to help end the nightmare of single-use plastics. I'm Alison Castillo, and now you know.
This newscast is brought to you by the Belize Bank Limited. Our country, your bank.
Good evening and welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, June 15th. I am Sabrina Daly. Prime Minister John Briceño held a press conference this afternoon in Belize City, the first since he took office in November 2020. Flanked by Foreign Minister Eamon Courtney, PM Briceño's briefing with the media ran for the better part of an hour, during which he discussed several topics, including his attendance at the recent Summit of the Americas. The Prime Minister's presentation as pro tem chair of CARICOM addressed the exclusion of Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Beyond the issue of these countries not being invited, CARICOM as a bloc also raised the matter of correspondent banking. For several years, it has been a concern for many Caribbean countries that continue to be affected by strict banking regulations. We begin tonight with the PM's recap of the 9th Summit of the Americas.
Belize and most other countries in the Americas felt strongly that the summit should have been inclusive with all countries invited to participate. Unfortunately, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela were excluded. Although we did not agree with excluding any of these countries, I believe that it was in the interests of Belize for us to attend this summit for several reasons. The summit began much like COP26 in Glasgow, with a lot of talk and little real commitment to action. But we were able to hold several significant side meetings, as well as ensure that the outcome documents of the summit represented our views and interests. We also had a meeting with Maxine Waters, Congresswoman and Waters, and her team to discuss the very issue. And as I mentioned to Brian at our meeting, we feel like a ping pong ball, because they're saying that it's not them, it's the banks. We go to the banks say it's not them, it's Congress. And it seems that no one is prepared to make a definitive decision in trying to resolve this problem. In the meeting with Maxine Waters, what she was suggesting is to hold a congressional committee meeting and to invite CARICOM leaders to go and to talk about it. And she's hoping that eventually she could have a carve-out for the Caribbean to see how we can have these banks provide services to the region.
The Prime Minister's speech, delivered a short distance away from where U.S. President Joe Biden sat, was a no-holds-barred criticism of the United States' decision to bar Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela from attending the hemispheric conference. But was it PM Briceño's intention to reprimand the commander-in-chief?
No, I was not publicly chastising the president. I need to point out first that it was publicly known what was CARICOM's position. And I went there to speak as the chairman of CARICOM and at the same time for Belize. Belize has been very clear that that the Summit of Americas should be inclusive. It is a summit that it's geographic, that's defined by geography, not by ideology, and felt strongly that all countries should be invited. So I was speaking on behalf of CARICOM, but at the same time, we in Belize have also expressed that position.
Going back to the regional issue of correspondent banking, Foreign Minister Eamon Courtney also touched on the crippling effects of the regulations in place, as well as the actual whereabouts of ill-gotten funds that are being invested in houses, luxury vehicles, and boats in other first world countries.
In the meeting with Brian Nelson, we made the point to him that we find it curious that the Caribbean, let's speak about the Caribbean, is being pressured, money laundering, anti-terrorism. But it was curious that once the sanctions were announced against Russia, the billions of dollars that they say is the proceeds of money laundering were found in London, in New York, in Geneva. We found it very curious that the planes and the boats and the property that they seized were all in Paris or on the French Riviera, in New York apartments, in London mansions. Those are the proceeds, according to them, of money laundering in the developed world, in the very banks that are saying they're not going to provide services to Caribbean banks. The double standard is a bit difficult to stomach.
Prime Minister John Briceño departs on a 3-week working visit that will see him attending meetings in various countries across 3 continents. He leaves for Brussels on Thursday and concludes his trip in Suriname. He says that the message that was imparted in Los Angeles during the Summit of the Americas will also be taken to Africa.
We will take this message beyond the Americas as we now turn our focus on the upcoming Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit in Kigali, Rwanda, where I will be speaking on behalf of CARICOM and, of course, Belize. Tomorrow, I leave for the summit, and yes, it is early because I will be in Brussels, where I have been invited to attend the EU Development Days conference to discuss development issues. Only 3 CARICOM heads have been invited: Belize, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago. In Brussels, I'll be meeting with the EU heads of government, including the Prime Minister of Belgium. I'll be pushing for the establishment of an EU delegation in Belize and continue our campaign for visa-free access to the EU. As you all know, the EU is one of our largest donors and our second largest trading partner. From Brussels, Belgium, I go to Rwanda for the Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit. There will be the election of the Secretary General. Foreign Minister Johnson Smith and Baroness Scotland are vying for the post. We also have some bilaterals lined up with Commonwealth partners. On the way back, I will stop off in Lisbon, Portugal, for the World Oceans Summit. Here, Belize will be featured for our successful negotiation on the blue bonds. I'm also going to be meeting with potential investors on the matter of renewable energy. We want to see how we can harness all that sargassum and turn it into electricity.
According to PM Briceño, his travels in large part will be covered by a number of international financial institutions.
Let me say that a large portion of the funding for attending these meetings will be paid by some of our IFIs. And finally, from Lisbon, I go to Suriname to hand over the chairmanship of CARICOM to the incoming President pro tempore, to President Santoki of Suriname. The CARICOM heads will be meeting over 3 days to discuss regional matters. Thereafter, on the invitation of President Ali, I travel to Guyana for an official visit. It will be a long trip covering 3 continents, but all very important for Belize and in fulfilling my role as the chairman of CARICOM. This trip will help us to establish our connections with our Commonwealth brothers, give us the opportunity to meet face-to-face with our European partners in development, and will put an exclamation point to our successful tenure as the CARICOM chair.
It is expected that the Deputy Prime Minister, Cordell Hyde, will act as Prime Minister during PM Briceño's extended absence. Coming up, Mayor Bernard Wagner has his eyes set on Albert for the next general elections.
The 2022 Population and Housing Census is here, and our census staff will visit your home over the next 10 weeks. You may ask yourself, what can I expect when my household is visited? Well, data for the census will be collected in two parts. First, the interviewers will list all the buildings in their area of work and record some key characteristics of the building. For example, they will capture whether the building is a dwelling unit, a business, or an institution. They may ask you to confirm some information about the building when in doubt. The second part involves collecting information about each household, such as the number of persons living in the household, the type of dwelling they live in, and access to essential services. Information will also be collected about each household member, including newborns and the elderly. Remember, the data from the census is essential to make informed decisions and policies that could help improve your community. So when we knock on your door or holler at your gate, tell us to count me in. The Statistical Institute of Belize, providing Belize with quality, objective, and timely information.
It's Super Handy Dads Month again at Brothers a Bit and Habet and Habet, and that means super deals and super gifts for that super special dad. And we're bringing the power to all Super Handy Dads all month with 15% off all power tools and accessories from Stanley, Black & Decker, DeWalt, Skill, and Bosch, and 15% off our entire brand new line of Track automotive batteries. Super powerful! Plus super clearance deals on Westinghouse lights, select paint colors, and much more. So come in today to Habet and Habet and Brothers Habet this is Super Handy Dads Month and pick up these super deals at super savings.
When all hope is lost and the days ahead look grim, we find ourselves looking for someone to shake things up, rescue us, and point us in the right direction. What if the one we've been waiting for has been here all along? Join us for our new series, Troublemaker, as we learn about a man who wasn't afraid to stand up for what's right to make this world a better place.
Alan Pollard has replaced Micah Gooding as Deputy Mayor of Belize City. The decision was made during a special meeting today at City Hall. Gooding had requested an extension on the time given for him to provide valid reason why he should not be removed as deputy mayor. But he changed his mind and resigned at the end of the extension period. Viewers will recall that Gooding had come under a hail of criticisms following an incident that spiraled out of control at a night spot where he was in May, resulting in a shadow councillor being grazed by a bullet during a shootout. Some councillors called for his resignation immediately after the incident, rather than subjecting the entire council to embarrassment. But Gooding initially resisted on grounds that he did nothing that was criminal or immoral. Now that the matter has come full circle, Mayor Bernard Wagner met with reporters this afternoon to share what came out of today's caucus.
Council has essentially ratified Micah Gooding resignation letter that he sent to us late yesterday evening, and we had to ratify it, obviously, given that he was a sitting deputy mayor, and they unanimously ratified and accepted his resignation as deputy mayor. We can't remove him as a council member. The people decide that, and so we leave it up to the people. Our council is really satisfied with the results, but we remain focused, and we want to move ahead rather than look behind. Councillor Pollard is now the new deputy for the council again. This is his second term serving as a deputy mayor.
Micah Gooding's fall from grace is a blow to his political career. However, Mayor Wagner feels it will serve as a good life lesson, one that will make him a better person. Wagner has indicated that he will not seek re-election as mayor in 2024. But how does the council right itself with Gooding as a part of the team that will seek another term? Wagner feels that in due course, Gooding will rise above this point.
I believe that time heals everything, and it gives Councillor Gooding the opportunity to step back. All of us during our course of life have met challenges, and sometimes it hits you in the face, and it gives you an opportunity to step back and reflect and do some introspective work on yourself. And I certain that the test at hand for Councillor Gooding is a necessary test, and I believe that out of this he will become a better person.
Mayor Wagner indicated that the past system of governance that was in place soon after the Gooding incident, that of him running the daily operations of the council remotely, is no longer in place. And that will be evident as early as this Friday, when Councillor Stephanie Hamilton will act as mayor for a week. That's because the mayor and Pollard will be in Rwanda attending a seminar.
I met with Paul face-to-face, because I'm a face-to-face person. I don't go behind the back. And I told Paul about late last year or early this year, I told him what's his plan for Albert. I am a straight-up person. I'll come to you and ask you. And I said, because I may have interest in it. I told him straight like that. And Paul told me he is still looking, just like myself, at the landscape. So you can't be making any plans as yet. You never know how that redistricting will play out. And so I believe most of the area reps in the city feel the same way. So I leave that for down the road.
As you heard earlier, Mayor Bernard Wagner is not interested in running for the office of mayor for a third term. In fact, he admitted today that he is looking at the big leagues hereafter. And he has his eyes set on the area where his office at City Hall is located, Albert. But how would that fare off between him and the PUP's Paul Thompson, who came within 42 votes of winning the seat in 2020? Thompson has been quietly working behind the scenes to close the gap on his political rival, the UDP's Tracy Panton, who dealt him a major defeat in the previous elections. Now that Thompson has been able to place himself within reach of the seat, it is likely that he will be unwilling to step aside to usher in a new candidate. But today the mayor said he has spoken with Thompson about it, but that both of them are carefully looking at how the upcoming redistricting exercise may reshape the Albert constituency.
I met with Paul face-to-face, because I'm a face-to-face person. I don't go behind the back. And I told Paul about late last year or early this year, I told him what's his plan for Albert. I am a straight-up person. I'll come to you and ask you. And I said, because I may have interest in it. I told him straight like that. And Paul told me he is still looking, just like myself, at the landscape. So you can't be making any plans as yet. You never know how that redistricting will play out. And so I believe most of the area reps in the city feel the same way. So I leave that for down the road.
Prime Minister Briceño responded to opposition Senator Mike Parafit on Monday in respect of a request that was made under the Freedom of Information Act for his administration to disclose the sums of money that have been paid to Courtney Koyi LLP. During a subsequent press conference held by the United Democratic Party on Tuesday, Parafit said that he was not sold on the figures that were shared by the PM in his letter. This afternoon, we had an opportunity to hear from the Prime Minister, as well as Senator Eamon Courtney, on that arrangement. Here's how PM Briceño responded to Parafit's position.
I think he must get vexed. He never get none of the part of the action. $30 million is a lot of money. And so he must have been shocked to find out that the people that are connected to the Barrow family, one way or the other, collected approximately $30 million, and that's what we found out so far. I am convinced that the numbers are correct. I'm discussing right now with finance and others to maybe consider to to release even the actual documents to show when each individual payment was made. So you consider.
Every time I'm appointed to the Senate, I write that letter to the Governor General and I get back a response. So there was nothing different every single time, because I don't know whenever somebody, there are 9 lawyers in that firm, somebody call them, they get business, I don't know what's going to happen. So I write that letter to make sure that I'm covered in the event that my firm is asked to do any work. It's as simple as that, nothing more complicated or secret. In the government service, there is frequently times when you have to outsource or you choose to outsource all kinds of services. All kinds of services. The only reason we are focusing on this is because people are trying to maintain some relevance. That's all.
On Monday, Justice Lisa Showman rendered a decision in the case of the 7 Cubans who sued the state. They alleged that their human rights were violated while they were in detention. But Justice Showman found that the case presented by the Human Rights Commission of Belize had no legal basis. She also ruled that there is need to ensure that the removal order for the Cubans be effected as soon as is practical by the state. Today, Minister of Foreign Affairs Senator Eamon Courtney said he was pleased with the outcome of the case.
In that particular case, what you have are people who do not qualify for refugee status in Belize. You cannot apply for refugee status and say, I am fleeing from Cuba. I want refugee status in Belize so I can go to States. You have to claim refugee status and stay in the country that grants that to you. On their face, on their application, and in their evidence to the court, and say, well, they don't want to stay here. They want to go. So what is it that they're trying to do? They are caught. They are prosecuted. Some smart lawyer says, claim asylum. I want to get you for God help for progress. There will be no security, and overnight you run and gone. We would be tacitly facilitating human smuggling. Let me say this to you. A year ago, I took to Cabinet a paper asking to allow Haitians to come to Belize without visas, because that is required under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. We were in breach. That has been approved. Without going into the details, there are a significant number of Haitians who are all of a sudden coming to Belize. One-way ticket, no hotel reservation, but they say they are tourists.
Courtney said that the Belize government has received requests from chartered flights to arrive from Haiti, but that in collaboration with the Civil Aviation Department, they will not be allowed to land. In December, the government of Belize announced that it would conduct an amnesty program for foreigners who have been living in Belize and want to officially make the jewel their permanent home. The program will look at registered asylum seekers and irregular migrants who have children born in Belize prior to 2020 or who have themselves been living and working here, have completed their primary or secondary studies in Belize, or are married to a Belizean. But there's been a delay in starting the program, and today the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Senator Eamon Courtney, explained that there were some delays with the supply chains, but that by the start of August, the program should be up and running. But importantly, foreigners who do get approved for amnesty will not be granted citizenship, nor will they be allowed to vote in elections until after they become Belizeans several years later, Courtney advised.
We're not granting citizenship, and secondly, people will not be allowed to vote in elections until and if they become Belizeans.
In 5 years' time.
Yeah, I think many people were wondering whether this was some sort of a gimmick to try to get people on the electoral roll, and that can't happen for a minimum of 5 years. Secondly, and I think this is important, if the estimates by the government and international organizations is anywhere near accurate, between 40 to 60,000 people. If that amount of people apply, this will be a net income earner for government. based on the fees that have to be paid. So it is quite likely that we will end up without any loss to government.
After the break, youth and the sugar industry.
Medriva is the safest and most reliable taxi service 24/7 countrywide. Get to your destination on time. No more calling. Just pin your location or schedule your ride and a Medriva driver will be at your doorstep. Whether you're going to work or picking up a loved one, there are 3 categories to choose from: budget, economy, Island Lux. Try our services today and earn loyalty points on each ride to get cashback deals on your next ride, or sign up to be a Medriva driver. Just be sure to have your police record on hand. Transportation services at your fingertips. Download the app today. Medriva, opening doors to new opportunities.
Todo beliceño merece tener una conexión de internet de calidad, rápida y confiable en su hogar. Para clases en línea y trabajo desde casa, es la nueva forma de vida. Diginet es el proveedor número 1 de servicio de fibra óptica, impulsando la transición digital de Belice. Y ahora nuestro servicio de Diginet es aún más accesible con nuestro nuevo plan de entrada. Por tiempo limitado, tú y tu familia pueden disfrutar de 20 megabits por segundo por solamente $49 mensuales. No más clases perdidas ni reuniones virtuales interrumpidas. Te está costando mucho tiempo y dinero. Diginet es mejor que cualquier opción de cable o servicio inalámbrico. Visita cualquier Digistore hoy y suscríbete para la conexión más rápida y confiable de Internet para el hogar en Belice. Ven a ver lo que te has estado perdiendo. El mismo servicio de fibra de alta calidad, rápido y confiable, ahora a un precio aún más bajo. Para más información, visita www.livedigi.com/Diginet. Digi, nuestra telecomunicación nacional.
Benny's is kicking off Father's Day with popping deals for dad. In the month of June, visit a Benny's near you and get store-wide discounts on selected items such as Milwaukee and Axie power tools, Charbroil barbecue grills, car care products, Karcher pressure washers, and much, much more. Make dad happy with popping deals for dad in June, only at Benny's. Celebrating 75 years of quality and savings.
Taking its name from the venerable father of the nation, the George Price Highway stretches 77 miles from Belize City to Benque Viejo. Originally built in the 1930s, this cross-country highway system is the artery that links Belize to Central America at the western border with Guatemala. That connection facilitates overland trade, supporting Belize's economic development. Winding its way across the scenic countryside, the George Price Highway from Roaring Creek to Esperanza has been fully reconstructed to meet international standards, with particular emphasis on road safety. A shorter and hassle-free commute is best enjoyed when everyone obeys the traffic laws. To reduce the number and frequency of road traffic accidents, it means that a seatbelt must be worn at all times, and the speed limit observed when traveling along the highway. It also means that pedestrians must use sidewalks and crosswalks where available. Buses should only board and discharge passengers at a designated bus stop. Road safety is everyone's responsibility. It begins with you.
Donaldson Filtration Solutions is a company that comes with over a century of innovation and offering filters for a cleaner world. To keep your machines and equipment running in the toughest conditions, you need filters that work as hard as you do. Donaldson offers hydraulic filters, air filters, fuel filters, lube filters, and anything needed to keep your machine pristine. Come to your nearest Westrack Limited store for Donaldson filters and whatever your industrial or trucking needs might be.
A little over 100,000 Belizeans living in rural communities are between the ages of 15 to 25. Of that number, it is estimated that 25% of that youthful population is unemployed. Fair Trade International has found that youth are are 3 times more likely to be unemployed than adults. The population says the global organization is a lack of enabling environment, appropriate policies, laws and regulations, including norms and practices, to facilitate the engagement of youth in agriculture. Since 2021, Fair Trade has been working to correct this imbalance and exclusion in Belize. The international organization teamed up with the Belize Sugarcane Farmers Association to formulate a rights-based approach for youth involvement in the industry. Today, a ceremony was held in San Roman Village in the Corozal district to officially launch BSCFA's Youth Inclusive Policy and Framework Action. News 5's Paul Lopez reports.
The Belize Sugarcane Farmers Association's Active Youth Initiative in Fair Trade Sugarcane Production in Belize was officially launched on Wednesday morning in San Roman Village.
As an organization, we have been doing a number of strides to try to get to this point. We have been doing a number of programs that have been including youth since 2015, and this would mark the systematic change in the organization now, because it's now not only a project that we're executing, but now we're trying to institute that we are able to include them even at the decision-making aspects.
BSCFA and Fair Trade International are collaborating to develop a youth-inclusive policy for the association. To date, consultations have been held with key stakeholders, 9 focus group discussions have been held, and 93 youths from 11 communities in northern Belize have been consulted.
On the focus group that we conducted through various areas in the north that are sugarcane farmers cultivation, we found that there are vulnerabilities that youth encountered. And one of them is that it's alarming to see that youth are engaging more into crime and delinquency, and we want to convert, or we want that energy to be into a productive way, into sugarcane or into the agriculture sector, so that it creates a sustainable Belize.
To date, what do you find are some of the challenges that are preventing youths from being more engaged in the sugarcane and agriculture, or more so, what are the challenges that they are seeing?
Well, one of the challenges that is important to note is that it is tradition that one land is passed to their offspring, so it is difficult for a new youth to access a land, and there is where the government should also form part to help and assist in providing lands to youth.
Other challenges that youth cited during consultations include limited productivity due to a lack of finances, shortage of labor, poor conditions of roads used to transport sugar, low wages, and discrimination based on gender and political affiliations.
We have more youth in our world today than ever before. However, a large proportion of them are not in employment, not in skills development, or not in business opportunities. Young people are 3 times more unlikely to be employed than their adults. So Fair Trade is concerned about the next generation of farmers, farm workers, traders. So when interviewing producers in Fair Trade, we understand that the average age is increasing and young people are not interested in agriculture. So this creates a problem not only for Fair Trade, but for the world.
The vision for BSCFA Youth Inclusive Policy is to empower young people in sugarcane production and agricultural communities for participation in BSCFA's decision-making process. Andy Westby, the chairman of BSCFA, says the association is serious about executing the policies that will be drawn out from this initiative.
BSCFA is very serious because we have more than 5 years investing in these policies and remediation in the youths, no? So that's why we are very interested to help them with their way of thinking, their way of learning, their experience, their advanced studies that they made, and with our experience to help them make better decisions for us on the day of tomorrow. Of course, they would. We have to listen to them, even if it has to be a part of in the board's meeting, also to listen to them and to help us also make better decisions by the way they see things, no? And so jointly, I think this will be the way for the BCFA and respected to the youths to be part of the BCFA and for our future generation, and also for Belize and for the nation and country.
Reporting for News 5, I am Paul Lopez.
Florencio Marin Sr., the former People's United Party politician who began his career in public life over 5 decades ago, is once again employed with the government of Belize. Florencio Marin Sr. ran for office back in 1965 at the tender age of 23, when Belize was still known as British Honduras. He served consecutively in the House of Representatives as area representative for the Corozal district up until 2008, when he retired and was succeeded by his son, Florencio Marin Jr. That was the same year the People's United Party suffered a crushing loss in the general elections. Now, Florencio Marin Sr. has come back from retirement at the age of 80, this time as an advisor in the Ministry of Agriculture. Today, we caught up with him in San Roman Village, where we got an opportunity to speak on his return.
What has it been like returning to public office after 15 years out of public service and over 4 decades of service to the nation? How have you been able to adjust returning?
Thank you for the question. A lot of people have been saying that I am a dying man, that I am sick. I just returned from Mexico last week, where I attended a political meeting. I have been to Big Creek, where Belize Sugar Industry and ASR inaugurated a depot for the handling of sugar to the ships, which is a major improvement for the industry and the country. I was happy to see BSI ASR do that investment. It augurs well for the country. I am very happy. As you know, I was born in San Narciso, very close from here. I grew there too, and I left San Narciso in 1971 when I formed my own family. And because of the constituency at the time was what is today Corozal West and Corozal Southeast, I chose to live in Corozal town because that was more convenient to reach the villages. There was no good roads like you see today at the time. So you will appreciate that it was difficult to move around. Certainly I have to go by boat, sometimes a whole day. And I reach Sartanea around 9, 10 o'clock in the night. That's not the case today. There is a vast improvement.
GOB's decision to contract Florencio Marin Sr. as an advisor to the Ministry of Agriculture on a salary of $36,000 a year has not come without its backlash. The president of the Public Service Union of Belize, Dean Flowers, in an interview referred to Marin's hiring as, quote, disrespecting young people. So today, we asked the former minister for a response to such disapproval.
Obviously, you don't have the same youthful energy that you once did back in the 1960s when you first joined politics. After so much years of service, shouldn't you be spending time enjoying retirement and spending time with family and loved ones after all these years, and perhaps give a younger blood an opportunity to do exactly what you're doing right now?
I question that term, younger blood.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I am enjoying what I am doing right now. I did that for a long time, and I think I had a good rest for the 15 years that you say that I was not active. So I am back again, full of energy. I will give my very best in the service of my country. And I support Prime Minister Briceño, who is doing an excellent job. But I have to attend him.
Your contradictory given the event that we have today, trying to get young people more involved in this?
Nobody is stopping young people from getting on board. As a matter of fact, you see us training young people in this conference here. Young people will have their time. But let me put it this way. Do you think I can pick up any of those young boys, ask him to summon a meeting of the hierarchy of BSI, ASR, and the Cane Farmers Association and put them together and give them a lead? You think they can do it? They are not ready yet. But that is why we are training them.
When we caught up with Andy Westby, the chairman of the Belize Sugarcane Farmers Association in San Roman Village, we asked him about the association's ongoing negotiations with ASR-BSI towards a signed commercial agreement. He told us that the association is hopeful that an agreement can be met by the end of July. The interim agreement that is currently in place will expire at the end of July, and without a signed agreement by that time, the next sugar crop would be severely affected, said Westby. The potential for another demonstration, like what the nation saw in December of 2021, is also there if the association's membership mandates it.
Actually, we have an interim agreement that carries us to the ending of July. Right now, the negotiation is present going. We hope we could have something before the end of this month, because whatever comes the next month, well, then we have to face and carry it to our membership in a special AGM to inform them where we are with this negotiation. Right now we are ongoing. We are almost about to finish, but we are just depending on certain documents from government to present to help us in the negotiation, and we are final.
So the hope for an agreement, a signed agreement, is not just an empty hope. You're actually seeing progress, and you believe that you will reach an agreement.
We believe we should reach an agreement. It all depends on the good faith on the table, no? And if that is there, of course, that could be done. But like I said, nothing can be signed on our part unless it is presented to our membership, and they will give the approval for us to sign for that agreement.
Before the end of July?
Well, we are looking forward to meet that time.
When we return, will Forestry Officer Daniel Che be dismissed for insubordination? Details when we return.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma de tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
Download the SmartStream app on the Android Play Store and create your account to get access to movies and stream at home or on the go. Prepaid customers can purchase regular data packages or get a discounted rate on a special SmartStream package by dialing 7737. Postpaid customers will be billed monthly. Never miss a movie again with SmartStream.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's daily obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
On Tuesday night, we told you about the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management issuing a warning to companies that are purporting to sell carbon credits without approval from the government of Belize. The ministry said that private entities selling carbon credits can affect the country's carbon budget and quota. CEO Dr. Kenrick Williams, in an interview this morning, said that the ministry became aware of an offer being made on social media.
Was a notification we saw on social media in which companies were purporting to have some mechanism through which they can afford the sale of credits. And I think that was for either restoration of lands or existing properties. And I think it was largely for the forest sector, really. And so the response, and there are other instances where we've been informed that whether it's private sector or NGOs have been trying to set up a mechanism for the sale of carbon credits. And so we wanted to notify the public that in general, you require approval from the government in order to engage in any type of sales of this nature, because that process really affects the broader framework as it relates to our national commitments under UNFCCC, under the Convention on Climate Change, as well as other international and national commitments. No? So there is a framework through which we review those applications and then give approval. There are opportunities for carbon credits within the voluntary market, for example, or even within blue carbon. So there are opportunities within the various sectors, not just with respect to trees and not just with respect to the forest sector. We want to incentivize those mechanisms. And so the intent of the press release was just to say, hey, be very careful of carbon washing. If it is within the forest sector, we suggest, or any other sector really, we suggest that you come to the National Climate Change Office to review that project.
But the informal sale of carbon credits is ongoing, with GOB receiving no royalties or taxes. Since the return from COP26, a national framework is being worked on to regularize this process. CEO Williams confirmed today that the Rio Bravo Conservation Trust, by program, for Belize has been one of the longest standing entities to be selling carbon credits, and there are others that have gotten approvals. Dr. Williams breaks down how the country will benefit from the sale of carbon credits when the framework is established.
Voluntary carbon standard system, and then there's the regulated market in general. Rio Bravo has been doing that. The recent approval from the government with the Maya Forest Corridor does allow them that opportunity to do that. They have been having discussions, have not formally engaged in the sales as far as we know now. Essentially, the market that we're trying to set up and regulate is still being designed. The rules of that market are still being designed. And so we've been trying to develop a legislative framework that responds to that, except that all of that is not very clear. And that's why that process legislatively, nationally, is a bit slow in responding. The benefits that would not naturally or theoretically accrue to a government would be maybe in the form of taxes, maybe in the form of the application fees and processes, standard with any resource use. So similar to how you have maybe forest license and application process, there may be a royalty fees. That mechanism is being developed. As it relates to Rio Bravo, there is no mechanism, no royalty or any mechanism to the government that exists. Rio Bravo is really testing a pilot project, a proof of concept, if you will, within the voluntary scheme. Now, with the negotiations and discussions of the Paris Agreement and the outcomes of the various COPs, again, particularly COP26, which was a landmark COP as it relates to the Paris rule book, which outlines how this market will work. Now we are able to devise a little bit more clearly the market mechanism and how this market will function.
Is a moratorium on logging afoot? There is a shortage of economically viable species of hardwoods within Belize because there has been a high level of harvesting and little reforestation. The Forest Department has recommended a moratorium. CEO Dr. Kenrick Williams explains what the ministry is doing when it comes to short-term logging licenses for extraction of hardwoods.
When we do the assessment across the country for those economic species, your mahogany, your yemery, and some of the others, we see that because of the type, particularly the process engaged with these short-term license, there's been a lot of harvesting, but very little reforestation within the Crown lands or leased lands. And so for that reason, we need to allow a regeneration period. We need to invest in restoration processes. And that is why the department is recommending that we have a moratorium, particularly as it relates to Crown lands and leased lands to provide, to distribute permits, no? Because of COVID, of course, the interest in resource extraction has significantly increased. The ministry said, okay, we would need to provide, we would need to be considerate and expand the opportunities for people to have access to particularly some of these Crown areas that the stock would not be as significant. So if you look at an area in Moscow that somebody has identified, it's Crown lands, there may be one species that they could have access to, where normally they would have 3 or 4 economic species that they could harvest. We've said, okay, we'll allow them to harvest that one economic species. It doesn't mean that there are no trees there. Again, we're referring to these economic species that they can sell on the market. So we allowed for that, knowing that we would have to very soon put a moratorium on these short-term licensing that allows harvesting on public lands.
Remember Daniel Chi, who was suspended, placed on administrative leave because he was purportedly rude to Prime Minister John Briceño? Well, tonight we have confirmed that his file is with the Ministry of Public Service and the Public Service Commission, where a recommendation has been made for his dismissal as a public officer for insubordination. The forestry officer was called by the PM to facilitate a plant importer who had a Baja permit to bring in products, but resisted because he said he detected plants that may pose potential dangers to other plant varieties in Belize. CEO Dr. Kenrick Williams, under whose ministry Chi works, gave a status update to the media.
I think the recommendation is for him to be dismissed, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it is for the commission to look at the case and determine. No?
On what grounds?
I think the grounds are grounds of insubordination. Yeah.
But okay, so the PSU, upon learning of this, would definitely criticize the government of, again, political victimization. That, just do this to attack the man. Okay.
And as I always say, that is the right of the PSU to do that. I mean, they have a mandate, and so it is their right to do that, and I respect that.
Just ahead, Stella Maris hosts an end-of-year open day. Details when we return.
Benefit are we, the people, supposed to pay?
Got something you pay now, but when you get old, you got something for college, for your future.
If you miss some days from work, they should have compensated for that.
As an artist, I'm not really sure because I work for myself.
What is Social Security? Social Security is not a tax. Social Security is a very small investment in you, the worker. It's an investment that you can count on now or in the future. It is designed to replace part of your income from wages when you get sick, get injured on the job, have a baby on the way, become disabled, or even when you pass away. And even then, the widow and your kids, if under 16 years or under 21 years and in school, obtain survivor's pension. And after a lifetime of working, you can rest assured you will have a monthly retirement income. Social Security, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
On May 6, 2018, I suffered a hemorrhagic stroke, which is bleeding on the brain. When it happened, I went straight into a coma straight away. I flew out via air ambulance to Galenia Hospital. A week or two after waking up out the coma, I started doing therapy. They had me do therapy straight away. And I'm grateful for that because that is what made me start moving and walking again. And I got back to being normal. When I went back, I did a new CT scan. And the CT scan results showed no blood, no clot, no fluid on the brain. So I didn't require the surgery again. But I had 24-hour nurse service by my side to make sure that everything is okay with me. After I came back to Belize, they still reached out to me, asking me if everything is fine and how I'm doing, and making sure that if I have any issues, I can always go back, and I just keep contact with them. And I'm very grateful to all the doctors and nurses at Galenia for their hard work and dedication. They're the ones that have me here today.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 police teams do whatever it takes, go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 believes on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, because news is now everywhere, all the time, and so are we.
I'm always on the go, and the country is my home. So when I want to get away from it all, I immerse myself with my favorite movies, all from the new Smart Stream app. It's easy to use this service. Purchase your movies from the app and use your mobile data, Smart Stream data packages, or smart broadband to stream and enjoy. Be like me and stream on the go with Smart Stream.
And Messi is standing over this. Messi.
Great entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
A delegation led by Minister of State Ramon Cervantes is in Geneva, Switzerland, where it is attending the 12th Ministerial Conference of the World Trade Organization. The conference comes at a critical juncture for international trade, which continues to face global challenges that ultimately affect the cost of living for Belizeans. In his statement to the conference, Minister Cervantes voiced Belize's strong call for an outcome on the negotiations to remove harmful fisheries subsidies that deplete global fish stocks and affect livelihoods and marine diversity.
Belize is represented there. I'm leading the delegation along with people from the Foreign Trade Ministry and the embassy in Brussels. They're subjects of great importance to us that are being discussed, and we are looking forward to coming out with conclusions and an action plan, because it's about 5 years now that we haven't been able to meet, and so we need, for example, in the fisheries in the fisheries matter, it's been 21 years that we can't get, that the WTO has been discussing this issue and cannot come to a conclusion, cannot get a decision, cannot get a consensus. So those are the things we are trying to iron out. It's been tough negotiations. It's 104, over 100 countries that are there, and so that's what we are doing.
During the COVID lockdown, sporting events were generally banned and the grass was overgrown and unkept. But now that life has returned to a sense of normalcy and sports is back on track, public stadiums and fields need to be regularly groomed. It was no surprise today when Minister of Sports Rodwell Ferguson stopped by the National Sports Council's office at the Marion Jones Stadium in Belize City to hand over a donation of lawn mowers and weed whackers. The equipment will be distributed to all 6 districts for use on fields that are managed by the Sports Council. Minister Ferguson explained to us that the $45,000 investment came through additional funding that his ministry requested, and Sports Director Ian Call was more than happy to receive the gifts.
Nobody uses machete anymore. It's weed whacker and lawnmower. And so we get 2 for every district across the country, 2 weed whacker, 2 lawnmower. Belize City have 6 lawnmower and 2 weed whacker. So this will be able to maintain the field and they look better, because we get several complaints that our facilities are run down or out of control. So we're going to make sure we can improve them. Request additional funds, and we were successful from the government. So we are trying to make sure we can maintain and reach out to the young people.
From the onset, when we took office, there was a lack of equipment countrywide. And as we have said before, we have inherited a number of other facilities across the country. So there's representation of the National Sports Council countrywide. And a difficulty that we have had is the maintenance of these facilities. So what we are doing now that we have acquired these new machines is that we will be distributing them countrywide. We'll be sending 2 to each district, and even Independence is getting also. So now we'll be able to see our people there being able to maintain these facilities across the board. We have different associations and federations that use our facility. You have FFB as well that uses our facilities. So these fields need to be maintained, and our areas that the children use needs to be properly cut as well. Our maintenance guys are tasked on every week, once a week, they have to oil up the equipment, they have to service the equipment. So our day is set for them to do that in the mornings, especially on Fridays. And the same thing we'll implement in the other districts because they will be used a lot. So it needs to be maintained constantly, make sure the oil is put on the machines and so forth. We have an asset system where we have tagged each equipment and which equipment is going to each district by serial number, so we will know where the equipment is.
As another COVID school year winds down, a News 5 team headed over to Stella Maris School for an open day hosted by its faculty and staff, as well as students of the institution. On display were items made by the talented children with guidance from their teachers. It was a truly festive occasion as students from other schools were invited to take a look at what their peers are doing over at Stella Maris. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports.
Stella Maris School today hosted its end-of-year open day, where students who attend the institution showcased the results of the hard work they've put in during this academic year. From food to carpentry, sewing, and more, students have been exploring their skills and talent.
We are showcasing all of the products that the children have been making since they came in face-to-face. We have been involved in a lot of skills. We have sewing, carpentry, jewelry art. We have cooking, baking. The children have been making powder buns yesterday. So we have a variety. We have a variety of things that the children have been working on.
Each booth has something for everyone. Randall Samuel Sr. is the woodwork teacher at Stella Maris. He says that the students have been taught how to make curtain rods and candle holders, as well as napkin holders and garden beds using pallets.
The woodwork room has been challenging for the most part due to the COVID protocols and the hand washing and the mask wearing. The students have been adapting to it, but for the most part it has been very welcoming. The students has been adapting well with the with the woodwork room as we recently opened it a couple of years back. It has been challenging, but for the most part, they have been adapting to coming to woodwork on a daily basis at Stella Maris School.
With the sewing department, Tiwani Laurie is learning from her grandmother at home, but also from her teacher, Kaylee Ford, on how to make a number of items.
Well, we make curtains, cushions, and tablecloth, and hair bonnet, and
How's the experience been for you in making these things?
well, I good. Well, I don't get used to it because when I was home, my granny teach me a lot, so I know a lot.
These are all that we have been doing in the sewing room. Despite the children's unique talents, they all came together and we made different items to sell today for open day.
Everything is for sale and reasonably priced. Principal Cantun says that the students have been taught skills so that they can transition easily into a workplace.
They're promoting it. You see the little girl with the tray with the juices? Come and get a healthy juice, you know? So it's really nice because they're learning money, they're learning to give change, they're learning, you know, it's an integrated approach where they're learning and they're developing, you know, to, like how I mentioned, to be able to be self-employed and gainfully employed in the future.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Sabrina Daly. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.